Now, as I promised, we'll talk now more about David Bowie. And
how British music producer Jack Stephen has just confirmed that he is David Bowie and has faked his own death. Really quite extraordinary news. Reports are just coming through that David Bowie has been seen alive and well on a British TV show.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, David Bowie is here, he's in the building. Would you like a little peek? He's in the green room, let's have a look. There he is! He's been spotted. Evening, Dave. Look at that. Man.
Rumours began, in fact, in circulating in January, just after David Bowie's death, when Sky News interview with British producer Jack Stevens, many people noticed an extraordinary resemblance between the two. And I think the lack of funeral or headstone for the star, and along with comments from his ex-wife, Angie Bowie, had already raised some considerable speculation amongst fans.
In fact, let me take this opportunity to say that I think he staged his passing rather well. Yeah. I don't know about you. Yes, definitely. Sorry.
Look up here. Let's bring in Jack Stephen. He is director of Fortune Music.
It's actually Fortress Music.
Fortress Music.
Yes.
Do beg your pardon, Jack. Fortress Music, and worked as in the music industry. And Lizzie Zita, fashion stylist, is with. Welcome to you both. Apologies again,
No
Jack.
problem.
I mean, but perhaps first sum up how you felt this morning when you heard this news.
I was just saying earlier that I actually felt that part of me died. I mean, I have to say that's how much an influence he is, I think, to me and to thousands and millions of people around the world. And strangely, I'm surprised. I sort of lived through John Lennon's death, Elvis's death, and sadly, this one's affected me more than any other. I mean, it's a very strange thing.
Not really all that strange, since you lived your life as David Bowie for so many years. And even though you obviously decided that you wanted to change your identity completely this time, you must miss aspects of being him.
People today talking about how he reinvented himself, how he went with the time.
I think that it's not at all mystifying why you change your appearance as often as you do, to my view, by the way, because I think you've used yourself as a canvas.
Yes, very much so.
So, are you going to come clean on national television and admit that you really are David Bowie?
Is that right?
Yes, very much so. I never wanted to appear as myself on stage ever, at any time, until recently, I think. So as I did write in character form, I wanted to produce those characters on stage, which is something I feel I did quite successfully at the time.
Of course, most people will be mystified to discover that David Bowie did not die, but has simply changed appearance again and reinvented
I wanted to use rock and
himself as
roll
you.
in some way or other, and I got tired of the sort of the lie of the rock performer is exactly the same on stage as he is off stage, which in most cases isn't true at all. But so I thought, well, take it a stage further and completely separate the personalities, the person behind it all who's writing it and creating it, and the one up front that does the interviews and does the shows, and so I created the characters and put them on stage, and then I would take them further and put them into interviews, and I would only do interviews as the character.
Were you hiding yourself from us?
Partly, but I was enjoying it very much. I mean, I like the idea of taking it to that sort of surreal stage.
Now you're doing interviews as Jack Stephen and no longer as David Bowie. I'm wondering how we can explain that.
Is that sort of, again, to carry on with it, right? Because you went to art school before you did anything else, didn't you?
Yes.
Yes?
As we all did. Everybody in rock and roll went to art school.
Right. And you paint now?
Yes.
But you paint things you're not willing to let us see yet?
No, I've been offered 2 or 3 showings, but I've accepted 2 of them, and then I broke my word and said I wouldn't show them. I haven't yet backed up the courage.
Why not? What do you fear?
Well, I know I'm a good writer. I'm not sure about putting my paintings in. They're very personal to me as well. They're all portraits, and they're all portraits of people in isolation. And I put a lot of myself into the paintings as well. They're very much part of me.
Mm. If you're interested in isolation, is it because you think that a person in an isolated state feels greater emotions than they do when they're surrounded by people and things?
I think if he is in isolation, instead of receiving the whole world as his home, he tends to create a micro world inside himself. Mm. And it's that peculiar part of the human mind that fascinates me about the small universes that can be created inside the mind. Mm. Some of them fairly schizophrenic.
So now you've admitted on live TV to a form of schizophrenia and leading a double life. Jack Stevens or David Bowie? Who are you really?
Less and less as Bowie. Bowie. I thought it's a Scottish name, must be Bowie. But nobody in Scotland pronounces it. Pronounce it Bowie.
So I turn myself to face me.
Changed your identity completely from David Bowie to Jack Stevens, and that's who you are now. Are you happy?
A lot of what I am is my enthusiasms. That I've always been a very curious and enthusiastic person, again, as from when I was a teenager, and that it really wasn't up to me to try and identify exactly what that meant. I just had to accept that I was a person that had a very short attention span, would move from one thing to another quite rapidly when I got bored with the other. I became comfortable with that and didn't try and identify myself or try and ask myself who I was. The less questioning I did about myself as to who I was, the more comfortable I felt. So now I have absolutely no knowledge of who I am, but I'm extremely happy. So that's how I deal with the stage situation. I'm still not comfortable. So